answer yes. Fantastic. Spectators, sure, come on in. Do I have any questions from affirmative or negative? Nope. Well, in that case, if my video people are okay with it, great. Then I'd like to start this round. So without further ado, I'll ask the first speaker.
I'll give you hand signals if you.
Okay. Look to Scott for time signals. Go ahead, Stephen Nolan.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'll start my speech with our definition, then go straight to our two arguments, which are the social taboo and the political dissidence. Let's start with the definition. We define anonymous posting as posting on the internet forum without attaching your real name, or either by using a pseudonym or not attaching username at all. This motion asks the government to legislate that all websites give this option. Just as we have the right to privacy in the real world, we think that similarly this right exists online. But exactly like in the real world, the privacy can be compromised if there's a real suspicion that the person is going to harm the society, and after getting a warrant, the police can enter your house in the real world, or they can find your identity in the online world. So, like all laws, this law will need to be enforced, and obviously there will be people who are going to break the law, but the side affirmative is not here to debate about the teeny details, but the broad principle, and this debate is about the value of such a law and what it will do, what this law is going to do for the society. The negative team has to prove why online is different than in real life. If in the status quo we accept the right to anonymity offline, such as the pseudonyms, pen names, anonymous pamphlets. We are only going to try to enforce this law in the Western democracies because these are the only places where we could feasibly do it and where it can for sure have an impact. So this being said, we will prove how this will have a ripple effect and protect individuals in the authoritarian regimes as well. Let's start with our first argument about the social taboo. Here appear a question: why people do not post non-anonymously? People do not post non-anonymously for two reasons. First, because of the laws and government, and the second, it's because of the societal judgment. Let's talk first about the first one. It's about the laws and government. There might be different laws in society that prevent you from talking about and supporting different issues. For example, in Nigeria you can be imprisoned for being gay, and in Saudi Arabia you can be stoned to death. The next issue, it's about the societal judgment. Even if there aren't laws, people may not want to post non-anonymously out of the fear of judgment of society. For example, if you want to talk about interracial marriage and you are in a society that does not accept this idea, you would be discouraged from posting about this under your real name on it. So additionally, if you look at the Bible Belt in the United States, you can see that there can be severe enough societal judgment that people do not want to talk about the homosexuality. And what consequences it have? This problem has three direct consequences on an individual level. First, it eliminates freedom of expression. Next, right to self-determination. And finally, the freedom of association. These harms prevent you from personal development and finding like-minded people. They also put pressure on people to conform to society norms by eliminating any semblance of privacy, and similar to how we don't force people to announce who they vote in the election, for example, we shouldn't make anyone put their name on what they post on the internet. On the social level, talking about this taboo issue, it progress society. If these ideas stand as the taboo and people would never talk about them, and the society will just stand still and do not make any progress. So ideas that seem unacceptable become mainstream when people are protected to talk about them anonymously. For example, before the American Revolution, before the American fight for the independence, people anonymously, they were passing out pamphlets and spreading the news about the dissidents against the British government. So it was how it started with the anonymity. They used the anonymity to express what they want. They had to be anonymous out of the fear of the government that would hang them, and this anonymity, it finally led them to the American Revolution, in the result of which it got its independence. So therefore, these promote a marketplace of ideas where society can determine what is the best progress they can make. However, discussion on this issue is vital to decide what good norms are, and the same way the negative can't prove that our case is wrong without refuting it. So as soon as we don't protect anonymity, we don't allow society change. And additionally, studies show that the pseudonyms are beneficial. In a large-scale study of comment made, 61% of the comments were made by pseudonym users, 35% were posted by anonymous users, and only 4% were were the users who had their real Facebook identities. So pseudonym users were also by far the most likely to contribute positive comments. It can be concluded that the pseudonym users, they are most valuable contributors to communities because they can contribute the highest quality and quantity of comments. Next, our second argument is the political dissidents. In oppressive government like China, they had special camps where they send their political dissidents. So China get information from Yahoo and other Western websites that track viewers and search histories who sell the information to the oppressive government. These allow this government to take away their position. For example, Li Zi has been given an 8-year prison sentence in December of 2003 for trying to join the Democratic Party of China. And Shi Tao is a mainland Chinese journalist, writer, and a poet who in 2005 was sentenced to imprisonment for 10 years for releasing a document of the Communist Party to an overseas Chinese democratic site. Both of this was a result of the Yahoo giving information to the Chinese government. So our model solved this problem because it would prevent, or at the very least make it much more difficult for websites from doing this. And political dissidents push against the oppressive government and try to improve the political system, but authorities kick them off from the political arena by taking them into these camps. So this matter on the national agenda because Western countries advocate for human rights and want to help push back on the oppressive government. So we as the affirmative showed you all the benefits that we would have after accepting this law and what kind of benefits it would be for the society. So we beg you to vote for affirmative.
Prep time for negative? Sure, we'll have it start and we'll let you know as it passes. Further ado, welcome to the third speaker from side negative, passing Sam on the content, and the first speaker on side affirmative. Go ahead.
Thank you for your speech. Can you just repeat your contentions?
Our first contention is about the social taboo and the next contention is about the political dissidents.
What do you mean by your first contention?
I've explained it already, but our first contention it is.
Explain it shortly, like.
It's just the social taboo. It's all the minorities that do not have, that are not able to express themselves. Second, first because of the law of the government, because of the fear in front of the law and the government. And the next is about the societal judgment. I've brought you examples of this, and it has the three consequences on an individual level. It has three consequences. It's like eliminating freedom of expression,
right,
left to self-determination, and freedom of association.
Right,
and on the social level.
Thank you.
Okay.
I understand your point. So you say about protecting minorities, right?
Yes.
So why whistleblowers like Snowden expose themselves? If you are whistleblowers are minority groups, one of the minority groups, isn't it?
So what does it make any sense?
Okay. So if whistleblowers like Snowden that we're gonna protect expose themselves, why we need anonymity?
We don't want them expose themselves. We are just protecting we want to protect the minorities that need these protections.
All right. Do you agree that anonymity exists?
Yeah, there are some websites that provide anonymity, but we want all the websites to do this.
Why force people to use anonymity if they don't want anonymity?
We are not forcing them. We are just providing.
You just say that we want all sites to have anonymity.
So just listen. We want all the websites to provide the option of anonymity, and the person have to choose whether he want to be anonymous or whether he don't want. It depends on the person. We are not forcing everyone to use anonymity.
All right. So you say that we are not gonna force them to use anonymity, right?
Yes.
So people have this choice right now. People have this choice right now. So why they don't use it?
There are some anonymous, but as I've already mentioned, we want all the websites to provide these options.
No, you didn't understand my question. Why people don't use anonymity? Anonymity exists in some sites, right?
Yes.
You agree in that. But
yes,
why people don't use it? Why people don't use it?
The people, currently some of the people use it. You're not saying that people are not using it, but we want to protect it. They have this law and we want to protect this law.
All right, thank you.
Great. Side negative like more prep time? Great, then we'll run the clock. Let you know as it passes. If you let me know like every 30 seconds or so.
have 717 remaining.
On the first speaker from side negative. Looking at negative response. Go ahead, Saad.
Societal progress is their main aim. Somehow providing online anonymity which already exists in the status quo and protecting it by law will cause the world to become a much better place. It won't, and that's all we have to prove to you. Martin Luther King, who brought about possibly the greatest change in American history, was not a guy hiding behind a Guy Fawkes mask. He was a personality. He was an image. He was somebody who was out there. Ghosts do not bring about revolutions and changes in society. And if that is their aim, then this motion will not pass. That said, why do they want to protect it by law? If it already exists, if all of these benefits are already there, what's the problem? Why protect it by law? Just for show? And at the cost of protecting it just for show, also protect cyberbullies, libelists, people who want to, say, incite violence using the internet? Of course not. Second of all, let's talk to you about the Bible Belt. How will online anonymity cause people who have been living in the Bible Belt with a specific set of beliefs that have not changed very much over hundreds of years to change now? What will cause them to move away from a set of values that they hold very dearly to and just forget about them and say, well, now we have online anonymity, we're somehow more liberal? Doesn't work like that. We do not understand why. And what progress? Frankly, I'm sorry, societal progress, while it's a nice thing to say, does not make a lot of sense. You need to explain to us exactly what change you want in society, how it's going to come about. Political dissidents. Edward Snowden, not a guy behind a Guy Fawkes mask. Why? Because for all we know, there's a whole bunch of whistleblowers on crack.com and who are giving out details about the NSA. Why do we not believe them, and why do we believe Edward Snowden? Because we know who he was, we know what his identity was, we know what was attached with his identity, which gave what he said credibility. People have been coming up with conspiracy theories about the CIA and the NSA for the past 50 years, but there's a reason we believe Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden and no one else. Finally, what about governments like China, like they said? If you really think that if Yahoo were to stop giving China information on political dissidents, China would let Yahoo function? They shut it down faster than I will be able to give this speech and put in a Chinese server that's going to do exactly the same thing. You cannot implement this law where people need this most. So what is the point? We don't understand. That said, let's talk to you about the two things we'll be talking to you today. First of all, we believe that online anonymity should not be protected by law because it promotes a failure of accountability and actively encourages criminal activity. Secondly, because it violates the right of social media corporations and frankly invalidates the purpose of social media. Already named these. Libel. When you defame somebody and cause damage. How do you prosecute it? When you know who did it. On the internet, how will you know that? We don't understand, because if your names exist, your IP addresses are still there, right? Anybody can track your IP address. It's a fairly easy thing to do. So if you're afraid of social censure, then there's still information on the internet that can track you down very easily. If you, however, change your policy and mask IP addresses as well, then there's absolutely no way of tracking them. Well, you could if you had infrastructure like the NSA, but since most people don't, and since the government really isn't willing to invest in anything except surveilling so-called terrorists, how will you do anything? Cyberbullying. It's been happening in the status quo. Protected by law? Of course not. And let's explain to you why that happens. In 1976, an experiment was conducted that has been reconducted multiple times. 1,300 kids were taken into houses at Halloween, twice. First time, they were taken in alone with masks on. Only 8% of them stole the money that was on the table and took the candy. Then, when you sent them in groups with masks on, anonymous in a crowd, 88% of them stole. And that's the point. Anonymity encourages detachment from the person that you are. I can still be a good, nice me in the real world while being a cyberbully who defames people and hates on other people on the internet. Why? Because the two of us are completely detached. At will, I can be whomever I want. They want discourse in society. You will not have discourse. Because as a person who really has nothing to lose, who has no encouragement to change his opinions, I'm not going to change my opinions. I can be whatever I feel like being, and that's going to encourage extreme opinions. That's going to encourage people who already have extreme opinions to not stray from those opinions, because offline they can do whatever they want, but online they can be as hateful, as murderous as they wish to be. And that is something that goes directly against their aim of so-called societal progress. Secondly, let's talk to you about the rights of social media corporations. It's social media. It's so you can post drunk pictures of yourself or pictures of cats and food on the internet. It's not an essential service. More than that, you enter into a contract with the social media when you sign up to abide by whatever rules they're giving you. It's not something you need, it's not something that's important, it's something that you agree to do. It's a service that they are providing you. And we feel that there is absolutely no need for a government to go in and say, well, this needs to be regulated. We understand that governments regulate things like corporate tax and production methods, but that is to save the environment, and quite frankly, Facebook is not saving the environment. This is not about anything near important enough for the government to come in and say that no, we can't let this happen. And keep in mind one thing, purpose of social media is to socialize. And in the real world, we have our identities. At least amongst our friends, our family, those identities are important for our socialization. So what's the point of having social media if you're anonymous? Thank you.
You've used 30 seconds.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. How do I start? Is everyone ready? Okay. Thank you for your speech. So my first question is Edward Snowden the only political dissident?
Well, he's certainly the most important political dissident that's been around
Why
for the
so?
past 10 years, because he had an identity.
Okay,
Because
okay,
Edward
sure,
Snowden could
sure.
be relied upon.
But if some political dissidents do want to use their real name, can't they still do so in our world?
If they don't want to use their name, they can still do so in your world.
Okay, but that's not the question. The question is, in our world, couldn't Edward Snowden use his real name if the right to anonymity were protected?
You're asking
It's a
whether
simple
he has
question.
a choice, right?
Yes.
Well, there's a choice in both worlds, so what's the difference?
In our world, it would be protected under law. That's what we're saying.
Well,
Aren't
they
there other
affect-
political dissidents in other oppressive regimes,
Do
such
you
as
want-
Li Zhao and Xi
Do you seriously
Tao?
expect us to believe that a government that if is allowed to circumvent these laws for say hate speech
Okay.
and libel will stop just because Edward Snowden was a political dissident? Do you think they wouldn't have gone after him like all hell
Okay,
was
sorry,
loose
sorry, thank
just
you.
because there was a law there?
Thank you. So, you talk about how the government would just kick out Yahoo if they stopped selling this information, right? If they couldn't sell this information.
Excuse me?
Sorry, you say that we're saying Yahoo can't sell this information anymore, and you're saying that China will kick out Yahoo, right?
China censors
Okay,
the entirety
so why can't we
of
understand
the internet.
They clearly
We feel
censor the
that-
internet, but don't currently in China people are using proxy servers?
Well, people in China are using proxy
So couldn't you use a
servers,
proxy
and
server?
China has now, for the past 5 years, using its all-seeing eye program, been coming up with
Okay,
ways to
but
block
if
proxy servers
currently
as
people
well.
have been using proxy servers for the last 5 years, why do you think suddenly they'll change this?
Yes?
Okay, never mind. Let's go to your responses onto like the Bible Belt, right? So you say that if we look at the Bible Belt, it's not going to make a change because there won't be overall social change, right?
We don't see
So-
what change there will be.
If we can show that these minorities, say a homosexual will then be able to not fear and be able to he'll be able to identify. He'll have the freedom of association. He'll be able to do these things.
How will
Wouldn't that
he
be
be free to
beneficial?
associate? How will he be
Because
free
he
to associate?
okay. Currently, if currently he has don't you think that there would be backlash of posting on the internet? Currently, you have a fear of posting online if you know that people can trace you back.
First of all, that problem of tracing back already exists.
Okay, so
in
let's
the
go.
world.
Let's go there. Let's go there.
Second of all, in the Bible Belt, people have for years and upon years
Okay, sure.
been going to
It's fine.
churches, being
Okay, thank
socialized
you.
against
Can I-
homosexuality.
Okay, thank you. So if we look at, let's go to the argument that you say that it won't make a difference, right? Because people can track IP addresses. Don't you think that if we protect it by law, then we'll be able to prosecute these people that do that? Just because obviously you say that people can get around the law. Can't people get around the law? Like if we say it's illegal to kill someone, can't people still get around the law? Just because you can get around the law, is that a reason to not implement this law?
Okay. How easy do you think it is to prosecute literally
Okay,
people who are
thank
tracking
you.
IP addresses? It would literally be the same as trying to prosecute anybody who visits the internet.
Okay, thanks.
I'll start the affirmative preparation time. You got 7:10.
Thank you.
Remember in yesterday round, people in us and they were through can you write the whole? She wanted you to write the quote. Said about he said that no one right is excellent and it will not fulfill the punishment in evidence.
6:13 left.
Thank you.
Five and a half left. Five left.
And now he's now with I will he's in jail.
Four and a half left.
He's in jail. Okay, now where is? It's in jail or not? It's just
Four left.
Thank you.
Three 40 left.
Thank you.
Welcome to second speaker. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, side negative wants to stay in status quo when you have no right to be gay, when you have no chance to change your oppressive regime if you live in an oppressive country. And if someone discloses your identity, it's okay, it's no matter, and it's not a crime. We absolutely disagree with this position, and we strongly believe that anonymous posting on the net should be protected by law, because there are people who really need this protection, and this protection should be given for them. They said that now we have anonymity, so we have no reason to make a law. But now we have anonymity, yes, but we have not protected anonymity. So, as I said, if someone discloses you, it's no matter, you can be disclosed by everyone, by every reason. So, the point is, should be anonymity protected, not provided, but protected. And protection anonymity is very essential for us. They said that by protecting anonymity, we will promote cyberbullying and illegal activity on the net, and also these bad things. They also noticed that in status quo these things exist. We absolutely agree that they exist now, and by protecting anonymity, we cannot change this situation into bad, because it's evidently that every right is not absolute. Every right is reasonable, limited. And if you broke the law, if you write hate speech, if you do illegal activity on the net, it's evidently that you will be punishment accordingly to the law. So anonymity provides and protects not cyberbullying, because there is another laws to prevent it. Anonymity protects gays, protects political dissidents, and another social minorities. They said that it will not lead to progress, that we will protect Snowden and so on. The first question, was Snowden really not right in his actions? It's a very agreeable, it's very debatable question. So we cannot say that Snowden wasn't right. Maybe he was really, maybe he did a really good action. It's the first. And second, Snowden isn't the only political dissident in the world. There are also Ai Weiwei in China who started by posting anonymously, but Chinese government, a suppressive government, found out him and imprisoned him. But Ai Weiwei, by posting anonymously, get many followers, and maybe if Chinese government wasn't oppressive and wasn't funded him, the Ai Weiwei changed the system and in China, and now China would be not oppressive government but there wasn't protected anonymity, and Ai Weiwei was founded, and now China is oppressive as earlier. They also said that in China it will not make sense because Yahoo, Google will be kicked out from China. We said that in cross-examination that Chinese people can use proxy servers, and they actually use them. They said that no proxy servers, everything is bad. But the fact is that people in China are not left in the dark. People in China are very cool people, very clever people, and they create many tools to circumvent the oppressive censorship. And sometimes they will kick out the oppressive government. And anonymity is essential for it, because when you talk anonymously, you can give your honest thought, and the quality of your posts is much higher than quality of posts which were self-controlled or government control your post. So by writing anonymously, you write honest thoughts, and you express all your ideas, and you make progress in your life, you make progress in your oppressive government. For all these reasons, I beg you for cite affirmative.
We'll start the prep time for side negative. No prep time? Required. Okay.
Thank you for your speech. Tell me, has Santa Claus become president of China?
I'm sorry?
Has Santa Claus become president of China?
Has who?
Has the Christmas guy become president of China? Because you clearly seem to believe that China will let all of this happen, lose all of its political power, lose what you call as an oppressive regime, just because.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Why would China implement a policy that directly harms its government's power?
We clearly said, our first speaker clearly said that we won't enforce this law in Western democracies because sites are created in Western democracies by Western democracies laws. So
why would China, who is actively censoring literally every site on the internet, allow a site to exist that allows anonymous posting? It's already filtering them.
Maybe China, maybe government of China will not allow people to use the sites, but people is smart. People use circumvent tools to get that site.
If they have circumventing tools, why can't they access anonymous sites on the internet anyway? In fact, if they have circumventing tools, why do they need to be anonymous to the rest of the world which supports them?
We said about the importance of anonymity. We said about honest comments when you write anonymously.
No, but what's the point of posting an anonymous post in China when half the people can't even access that information? And what's the point of being anonymous in the outside world where people really don't care, they want to have an identity, they want to support
one
you?
question and then second and then third. The first question was
what is protection by law achieving?
Okay, now you have an anonymity, yes?
Yes.
But the anonymity is not protected. So if Chinese government, as the case with Ai Weiwei, disclose your anonymity, you have...
Explain to me why the Chinese government would give two hoots about a law implemented somewhere in the West when it clearly has not for as long
Chinese government will refute with this policy, yes?
The Chinese government...
What do you want to say?
What I'm trying to say is that the Chinese government really has no incentive to implement this policy. Tell me, if somebody is posting fiercely for LGBT rights anonymously, what is the assumption? That he's some sort of intellectual who is afraid of giving out his credentials, or that he's just some sort of closeted LGBT community member who really nobody's going to listen to?
What's the point?
The point is that people have certain extreme opinions, right? Why would they listen to other opinions at all?
Extreme opinions?
Yes. Why would people with extreme opinions care about this?
Okay. If you have extreme opinions, first it's opinion two, and second your opinion will be discussed by the society. So society.
But this opinion, a lot of these opinions have already been discussed for so many years. But
yes.
These people still hold these opinions.
Yes.
What then happens?
Yes, but now society influence to your opinion, and when you write anonymously, it does.
You have 717 remaining. Six and a half. 6 from me. Five minutes remaining. Four and a half.
Ready? Okay, I'd like to start by pointing out the three main clash points that we can elaborate on to prove that we've won this debate. Number one, this policy eliminates credibility and accountability and therefore negates any potential positive impacts. Number two, this policy is unimplementable and not only will waste time and money, but the implementation will do damage to foreign relations between any countries that actually try to implement this policy. And three, this policy constitutes an invasion of the free market. Firstly, implementing perfect anonymity won't help minorities because credibility behind social movements is what creates their effect. They've refused to react to the point that when somebody posts online anonymously, you immediately assume the worst. There's no reason to assume that their point has any validity, especially when it counteracts a point that you already hold true to yourself. A homophobe is not going to read an anonymous post online saying that gay people should have rights and therefore immediately change their views. And somebody who's in the middle won't either. Moving on to the fact that this is a values case and that implementation around the world might not be possible in oppressive regimes but will be possible in certain countries. The fact that they've admitted to this proves that there's no point in accomplishing this task. In oppressive regimes, this policy won't be adopted, obviously, because they don't want to counteract views that they already hold. And secondly, countries in which that would actually enact this policy, according to the affirmative side, don't need to because these minorities already have a voice and are spoken for. In the United States, the LGBT movement has been happening for over 50 years. They have a strong voice and they can use it without being persecuted. Moving on to how this policy is unimplementable. They've pointed out that it is a values case and therefore it doesn't matter that it's technically impossible because of IPs. But we would like to point out that not only will oppressive regimes not adopt this policy, but you're ruining foreign relations that already exist between the countries that try to implement it and the oppressive regimes when you try to force a law on them. Obvious examples are the United States making constant moves in the Middle East and around the world to impose their own ideals. They go in saying they're going to establish democracy. They end up creating more enemies than they had originally. Attempting to implement a controversial international law is only going to create friction between nations, and they haven't addressed this possibility a single time throughout their debate. Thirdly, this is a complete invasion of the free market. It is true, as I've said, they've pointed out that this is a values case, and yes, some values do override the need for a flawless free market, but where is this line? Facebook is one of the biggest companies in the world right now, one of the fastest growing companies in the world, and has established the importance of social networking in modern society. Where do you draw the line between things that matter in the free market and things that don't? Invading what Facebook can do and can't do with its website and determining how it can establish itself is a completely unfounded ability. Moving on to some of the points they've made, they've pointed out that political dissidents have already posted in China in the status quo anonymously in an attempt to make social change, and they've pointed out that these people haven't had an impact. This merely feeds into our argument that because people don't have credibility when posting anonymously, they're not paid attention to, have no credibility, and therefore aren't taken seriously and don't have an impact. We'd also like to return to the example of Edward Snowden. If Snowden had leaked the information that he leaked online anonymously, why would anybody take him seriously? Odds are the information that he leaked has been leaked dozens of times anonymously on the internet by people that know it and know it to be true, but it hasn't been paid attention to because if you're anonymous, nobody cares. Moving on. If you, hold on. Okay. Because of these clash points, because minorities won't be helped by anonymity because of the removal of credibility, because implementing the policy is not only impossible on a technical level, but is impossible on an international level, and the implementation of it, the attempt of an implementation will do more damage than it will good. And because of this invasion of the free market and the invasion of the ability for social networking sites, which have proven themselves to be an integral part of modern day society, eliminating their ability to make their own decisions, we have proved that we've won this debate and that you should side with the negative side of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. 339 remains.
Thanks for your speech. My first question, do you see any difference between allowing and protecting?
Allowing and protecting?
Yes.
In the context of online anonymity?
For sure.
Yes, I see the difference.
Okay. You were talking about, you say that the Western democracies do not need it. Is USA is a Western democracy country?
Yeah, the USA is a Western
So,
democracy.
do the people of the Bible Belt do not need anonymity?
They have it in the status quo.
Oh. So why they're not using it if they have it? My next question is getting
Wait,
followers.
why are they not using it? How can
No,
you
we
prove
can
that they're not
just-
using
that's
it?
fine.
They probably are.
Yeah,
The
thank
reason
you.
that it's called
My
online
next question
anonymity
is
is you
getting
can't tell
followers.
who's using it and who isn't.
You are saying that if they're anonymous, it doesn't have any impact. Is getting followers isn't a beginning of an impact?
Gaining followers.
Yes, as Ai Weiwei, he was anonymous, he got lots of followers, and then he became non-anonymous, and then he also, these followers are following him till now.
Who is this example?
Ai Weiwei, he's from China, political dissident.
Okay.
So is getting follower isn't a beginning of an impact?
I'm not familiar with the particular impact. What impact did he have?
Okay. My next question. You say that if he's anonymous, they are not taking him serious. So why they took Ai Weiwei seriously?
Like I said, I'm not familiar with the example.
Okay.
I can't.
My next question is, are you aware that Germany has been giving Facebook for the past year?
Giving Facebook,
Yes.
allowing it, yes.
What's more important, the human rights or corporation rights?
Human rights or corporation rights?
Yes.
Human rights.
Sure. And if we accept the right to anonymity offline, why shouldn't we accept it online?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Why? If we accept the right to anonymity offline, why shouldn't we accept it online?
We should. It exists in the status quo.
Oh, you're saying that the right to anonymity exists in the status quo.
I'm saying that anonymity exists in the status quo. I'm not saying that protecting it by a controversial international law is necessary.
Is
and will
anonymity
accomplish anything.
available on Twitter?
Is anonymity available on Twitter?
Yes.
I actually, believe it or not, I actually don't have a Twitter. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
2:34.
Okay, we'll just run that. Thank you.
Minutes.
Oh. Is everyone ready? Good morning. So I'm going to start my speech by going through my opponent's last speech, his three main clash points. The first is that it eliminates credibility. The second, that it's unimplementable. And the third is that it's an invasion of the free market. And I'm going to show you why we're going to be winning on these points. And then I'm going to be showing you the net benefits that are coming out of the affirmative case. So let's go to the first. He talks about how it eliminates credibility. And he says that credibility gives effect, creates the most effect and it creates the most cause. But the problem there is you can still choose in our world. We're not forcing everyone to be anonymous on the line, on the net. We're just saying you have the option of being anonymous. And it actually does work. We give the example of Ai Weiwei. Unfortunately, our opponents don't understand this example, but it's still a clear example of how if you can post anonymously online, you can get followers while you're anonymous, and then you can become non-anonymous and you can actually make social change. That's the first reason you're going to not be looking at their idea of that it eliminates credibility. The second thing they say about how it eliminates credibility is that a homophobe won't want to change his views just because he sees that someone's posting anonymously. The problem is they don't understand this argument. This argument isn't saying we're going to be creating social change for those that are homophobic. We're saying this is going to create social change for those that are for the closeted gays in the Bible Belt, right? We clearly state that we, on the individual level, we're allowing these people to have freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of self-determination. Here are clear reasons why we're going to be beneficial, and there are going to be benefits coming out of the affirmative case. We're allowing these people to shape themselves, and even if we're not going to be winning on the fact that we can't change society, and we're not going to be changing society, we're still going to be making a difference on the individual level. So we're clearly going to have some benefits coming out of the affirmative case. So let's go to their second point. Their second point talks about how it's not implementable. The problem is they don't understand our model. Our model isn't that we're going to implement this as an international law. It's just that we are going to provide it in the Western countries, and this will affect these other countries and these citizens of these oppressive regimes. So first they say that there's no point because it won't be adopted in the oppressive regimes. Again, this is a non-issue. The second thing they say is that in Western countries it won't make a difference, but we say that it will make a difference because of the closeted gays in the Bible Belt, and it will make a difference in Eastern countries because of these oppressive regimes. So there's clearly going to be a difference. Then they say that it's technically impossible because you can track IPs. The problem there is just because it's technically impossible doesn't mean you shouldn't provide this right. It's still possible to murder someone. That doesn't mean you say, okay, we shouldn't have a right, we shouldn't protect the right to life. So then they say that trying to force laws ruins relationships in international laws. Again, we're not forcing this law on these oppressive regimes. So let's go to their third point. Their third point talks about an invasion of the free market. And in cross-examination, they say that human rights are more important than corporation rights. So here, that's the line. Insofar as we're protecting these human rights, you're going to be voting affirmative there. But second, they say that they don't know where to draw the line, and it's unformable. But the problem there is Germany has been suing Facebook for the past year asking them to provide the option of anonymity. Clearly, it's not completely unfounded because this case has been going on for a year. So there are clear reasons why it's not going to be unfoundable, and it is an issue, and we are allowed to invade the free market. So under their clash points, we're going to be winning this round. But even if you're not going to look there, we still have benefits coming out of the affirmative case. So let's go to So there are three things that we would like to focus this round on. There are two things that we would like to focus this round on. The first is social taboos, and the second is political dissidence. So you can look at our first contention, which is talking about social taboos. As nice as their speeches were, they don't actually make a response to this. They just respond to these specific examples of how they want to change their values, but they're not actually responding to the idea of this argument. The idea of this argument is that we are going to be allowing, I said this earlier in this speech, but we are going to be allowing these people to provide the right to self-determination and are allowed to freedom of association. So if they don't have these rights, and even if they do have these rights but they're not protected, we have to protect these rights. They say that anonymity exists in the status quo, but the problem is that it's not protected. And in our last cross-examination, our opponents conceded that there's a difference between protecting and providing. So insofar as they're not protected, there's no reason why you're not going to be voting affirmative. But now let's go to our second reason you're going to be voting affirmative, which is the social taboos. Which is the political dissonance. Again, on the political dissonance argument, they said that Edward Snowden is a minority and he's a political dissident. The problem is he's not the only political dissident. We give the example of Li Zi and Xi Tao in China, and they don't respond to this example. Not that they have to respond to this example, but they don't respond to the idea of this example, which is saying that there are, in these oppressive regimes, Yahoo can sell these the information of people who are going to be political dissidents to China, and China can then prosecute them. But we are going to be protecting these people. So there's clear benefits coming out of our case. Insofar as we're protecting these political dissidents, we are providing for allowing people all over the world to actually, we're allowing people to the freedom of expression and freedom of self-determination, and there are no harms coming out of the affirmative case. You are going to be affirming this round.
Negative, that's 409. Any preparation time? 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes remaining. 30 seconds. Ten seconds. Preparation time is finished.
And I welcome the third and final speaker from side negative to finish up this debate. Not to exceed 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The affirmative team have never responded to the idea of how anonymity brings out the worst in people and commends extreme position instead of bringing them closer together. Something that our first speaker talked to you about. Also, it's not possible to enforce the motion. Second, it's achieve nothing, and third, it harms people, as I said before. So, also, the Chinese dissident that the affirmative team talked about had a beginning of an impact that would also seem to his death. He had not revealed his own name. What social change? He went to jail. China is still an oppressive regime. No change, ladies and gentlemen. Social change for closet homosexual, but not for those who opposes them. That's nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. They live in the same society. How this can happen? Also, yes, we said about human rights are more important than cooperate rights, but to an extent, Facebook is more important than non-existent improvement of human rights implemented by their motion. They talked about protecting minority groups. People like minority groups knows that there is anonymity, but they don't use it because people like minority groups don't need anonymity. They need protection, and anonymity will not achieve their protection. Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It will bring a protection for those bad people who cyberbully these minority groups, because they can do whatever they want whenever they want, and they have no laws to control them. So, I will go back to our contentions. Policy is an table. Ladies and gentlemen, it's hard to force this kind of policy. How are we gonna be sure that this kind of law will be assured that it will be followed, because the own government will force? How we can assure that it will be forced? And also, if we force it, how we can assure that cyberbullies, as I said before, won't use it? They will use it. They need something that to protect them being anonymous. They will use it for the wrong ways. And they talked about our second contention is social media, attacking to social media cooperation. Well, let's take Facebook as an example, as my teammates said. Facebook, if we just bring stuff and with our identity shown, if we make everything anonymous, we attack Facebook, sites like Facebook. And thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for this